All right, welcome back to another episode of The Trial Attorneys. Today we have a very interesting conversation about, again, we're delving into the music, particularly the rap world, dealing with another indictment in federal court. It's almost similar to, we both old enough to remember kind of when rap became prevalent, in the late 70s, early 80s. And when that happened, rap was, demonized, was connected to the criminality that some people were rapping about. But they were rapping about what they knew, maybe what they saw, in some instances, their life experiences. And it was always connected. But in my opinion, what we've come to learn over the years, that a lot of this is just entertainment. A lot of it is people wanting to sell records, and the things they're saying, the things they're rapping about aren't necessarily true. And even, I think, any new form of music that comes around, a lot of times that new form is demonized. The blues were demonized, jazz was demonized. The devil's music, right? And so then rap happens and the same thing happens, but 40 years later, it's still around.
Well, I don't think it was rap. I think what did it was the onset of gangster rap.
There you go.
Before, rap was like cool.
Yes.
Try and be cool, impress the girls.
Right.
Now it's about how many times you've been shot or who you try to shoot.
Yes.
And a lot of these rappers who try to portray themselves as the thug and the tough guy, you find out that a lot of them come from middle class and upper class, and then they say, oh, I was raised in Compton. Then turn around, they was like in suburban Atlanta.
Right. Yeah. Well, for some reason, the federal authorities' attention is really turning to these musicians. And I say really because we've seen, of course, what we talked about before with Diddy, and now today we're going to talk about Little Durk's federal indictment or federal issues he has going on. If someone's watching the show and they don't know who Little Durk is, he's a rapper, Chicago, a prominent rapper from Chicago.
What's his real name? They always have these little mean nicknames. What's Little Durk's real name?
Durk Derek Banks.
Tough. Scary.
Yeah, well, Durk Derek Banks. And so in many people's eyes, Little Durk was one of the rappers that pretty much ushered in this new type or new genre of Chicago rap called drill rap.
It's above my head. No, I heard about it.
Yeah. So it's a really and it's something that even I saw happening slowly because I guess showing my age as well. In regards to Chicago rappers, I'm thinking about Common or Twista or these different of the older type generation that were around. Do or Die. These people.
You're younger than me because what his original name was Tongue Twister.
Yeah, Tongue Twister. I do know Tongue Twister. Just like was Common Sense. And then
Common Sense.
Exactly. Into Common. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And these were rappers I thought about initially from Chicago, but then this younger generation started phasing in, and I'm always surprised to go to other cities and around the world, and this drill rap and other places started to, sort of mimic this type of music, the type of beat, the type of syntax to the rap, I guess you could say, in particular with Little Durk. So it's a whole different genre or type or subsection of rap, and
I'm impressed with your rap knowledge, dude. Rap historian.
Yeah. People love it. People love it. So one of the, I guess, staples of drill rap is it's similar to gangster rap in that, but in my opinion, sometimes it gets in many instances I'm listening and they get much more particular and much more specific than it used to in the past. They really get into the details about instances or situations or
What I think is that they tend to be younger
Yes.
rappers,
yeah.
so they're not very mature. And I think what they do is they try to outdo each other.
Yes.
You know, who can make the greater threat,
Right.
or I've done this and I've done that, and it starts escalating till it gets personal.
Right.
And then if someone gets shot, and then it goes back and forth. There's no stopping to it. It
Yes.
just accelerates.
So he became just, extremely popular. He started working with big name artists like Drake and Lil Baby, and that really expanded his influence, outside and beyond Chicago, where he just gained a world acclaim. But what's also been intertwined with his music are his legal troubles. And over the years, he's had run-ins with the law. Those continuing run-ins, I think, are what led us here to these federal charges today.
But isn't it part of the rap game is to try to create an image that you're a tough guy and you've been in and out of jail and I pack a gun. It's almost making it come to life that you try to live that life, and then you start believing it, and then you start living out. It's not surprising that you have a gun charge because a lot of them talk about guns and shooting people.
Yeah, it's the age-old struggle, I think, many times with minorities, in particular in this country, who are in a position of power. So I've seen many times where some minorities almost have who had a worse contest. I grew up here. I grew up here. Well, I grew up here. I grew up here. And it's unfortunate that sort of, what you take from it is we both grew up in neighborhoods in Chicago that don't have great reputations. But what you take from that is it makes you strong. It gives you your character. It gives you a different view on life. But and it can be a badge of honor.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
That definition of manhood has changed.
Right.
Because they will brag about how many times they got shot. Well,
Right.
I got shot once. Well, I got shot 3 times.
Right.
But you would think normally that's not something that you would brag about. And like you said, it becomes a badge of honor, and it sadly makes you more of a legitimate rapper,
Right.
if you can claim that.
So in regards to Lil Durk's previous criminal cases, so in 2013, he was arrested for possession of a firearm by a felon. And that really is what started, the legal woes, you could say generically. Because that culminated into 2019, he was attempted murder charges in Atlanta. So during his career, he brought in another Chicago rapper, King Von, who was younger than Lil Durk, sort of almost a protege, you could say. So they were very close. And allegedly in 2019, Durk and King Von were involved in a shooting outside of the Varsity restaurant in Atlanta. Those charges ended up being dismissed. But that really, again, just sort of helped lead to that reputation, a culmination of violence attached to this rapper. 2020, he had another firearm possession and probation violation case. So Ricky, I think because a lot of times we deal with these possession of firearm cases. Can you kind of explain and lay the land of possession of firearms in Illinois and how you can have one?
Yeah. In the state, amazingly, Illinois was the last state to have where you could carry conceal. Before, you could not possess or carry a firearm outside your home.
Right.
You could transport it in the car. It has to be transported, encased, unloaded, that type of thing. You can only have it in your home or your place of business, but you also had to have what's called a firearms owner's identification card. They call it a FOID card. Then, subsequently, people could try to petition to get a carry conceal. Now, what happens is if you possess a gun outside of those parameters, if you don't have a FOID card, you're outside your business, or carry conceal, that's a felony.
Right.
Before, I know government tends to react. They don't think it through. But before, you could get probation on a gun case.
Right.
They changed that as automatic jail time. You could never have a parking ticket in your life, and you'd be charged with a felony that requires a sentencing range of 1 to 3 years. Now, if and a lot of times those people with no background who are charged that ways, usually it's because they just didn't transport it right.
Right.
They didn't put it in the case. They didn't put it in the trunk. They just got from the range.
Right.
You know. Now, if you're convicted of that gun charge, that felony, or any other felony, and you're caught again with a gun, then it's unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon.
Right.
And those sentencing range can go from 2 to 10 years to 3 to 14 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's a serious issue that's taken, of course, seriously in Illinois. You know, a lot of times Chicago, and I think a lot of politicians try to use Chicago as some sort of measuring stick in regards to how bad or crimes not being prosecuted in a large city. But from my experience, we see the very opposite.
Well, those are political talking points.
Yes, because as you just said, you can have this firearms owner identification card in Illinois, which means you went through the correct process, you filed all the paperwork, you don't have any criminal history, and you received
Said it again. For it, if you get that, they're telling the world this person has no criminal background.
Yes. No.
And then when he's caught with you, treat him like he's, Al Capone.
Yep. So, like you said, with the four, you have to break the gun down. You have to it has to be unloaded, and you have to put it in a case. And I always tell
Locked case.
Yeah, right. I always tell clients, put a lock case, put it in the trunk. Keep the ammo and the gun separate too, which if you want to be, absolutely sure. But a lot of times people don't, they miss a step, and then they get arrested, and now they're facing 1 to 3. They're facing prison time.
The car's towed. They got to hire an attorney.
Yep. Yeah, it's unfortunate. So, 2020, Durk has so he had already had prior felony or been accused of having a firearm previously, and he's on probation for one crime or another, and then he has violations. So, Ricky, what's the probation violation?
Well, if you're convicted of a felony, you can be placed on, rather than prison time, you may get what's called probation. Probation is in Illinois is usually anywhere from a year up to 4 years, but normally it's 2 years probation. During that time, the court requires you to do certain things, conditions. Mm-hmm. It could be they want to test you for drugs, make sure you don't have any illegal drugs in your blood, community service, paying fines and fees, or you have to appear on certain court dates, keep in contact with your probation officer. But if you fail to do any of those things, they could violate your probation, and have a hearing to decide whether, if you have a legitimate reason for not adhering to the conditions, they're going to have a hearing to decide whether, hey, we're going to send you to prison.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of times they run into the issue where you're on probation, you don't understand all the parameters of your probation. You're brought back in front of a judge, and now you're facing significant jail time. So that's what happened to Durk in 2020, but he was able to avoid significant jail time in 2020, and now we're here, and we're looking at this. But I think before we get into the actual charges here today, it's also important, to deal with a kind of a touchy subject in regards to alleged gang affiliation with Little Durk here. In Chicago in particular, there's something called basically a gang registry. And the police have this list. So when they enter, you want a list. And to get on this list, you just have to you can have a friend that's in a gang, or you can know someone that's in a gang. You could have been standing around someone's a gang at one time, 1 year, 1 day, and the police go, oh, you're affiliated with this gang, and then you're on this list.
Well, I mean, I grew up in West Inglewood.
Yep.
You know, you're surrounded by gang members. I mean, I wasn't involved with them, but I knew who they were.
Right.
I knew them by nickname.
Yep.
I would call them. There's one guy named Lump. He had a big lump on his head. We say, Lump, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Am I gang associated?
Right.
Because I live there? Because if I live there, I know who they are.
Right. Yeah. So that's why, I say this with a grain of salt, because I think there have even been, at this point, constitutional arguments to, there was, and allegedly, this gang registry is supposed to be done away with here in Chicago, but it hasn't happened. It still comes up. It's something that happens in many cases where prosecutors will try to, what we call, dirty up a client and try to throw the word gang into a trial.
And also, if you're caught with a gun, what's it going to charge you with? Unlawful possession of a gun by a gang member.
Exactly.
And that enhances the penalty because of they're going to use that registry as possible proof of this gang membership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Lil Durk is allegedly affiliated with the Black Disciples, or what generically are called here in Chicago the BDs. It's a well-known gang here on the south side of Chicago. And what the feds are trying to do, and again, this is just information I'm giving here. I'm not saying any of this is true or anything to that effect in regards to the gang affiliation at all.
Oh, on that point, I'm a gang affiliate. You know that.
Really? What?
Half my clients are gang members.
Oh.
So I'm a gang affiliate.
That makes sense. Yeah, but you might be on a list somewhere if you get that parking ticket.
I might have to register.
I don't know. So, the authorities are trying to connect him with this gang, and then even more so, another label or a music organization that Durk is involved with is Only the Family, or OTF, and that is in essence, his music affiliations, music group, his music label that bring in different artists and the music he's affiliated with. But what is now happening, similar to in the Diddy case, the federal authorities are basically saying that OTF, Only the Family, I'm gonna call it OTF. OTF is basically a subsidiary or a shell organization of the BDs of the.
No, I don't know whether it's these federal prosecutors' ignorance of the music industry, particularly the rap music industry, or they're intentionally trying to force that round peg into that square hole, because most of these rap industry labels like No Limit, Master P, he has all these smaller companies and different rappers, and you had Death Row with Suge Knight and Bad Boy Records, and they want to twist these to imply that because he has these businesses or these companies that somehow they're illegal. And I think it's easier for them to sell it because of the type of music it is.
Right.
It's almost a promotion of violence. So if they talk about violence, a lot of them just talk about life in their neighborhood, which is real, which none of them really see. So to say that I see shootings, then you must be a criminal organization.
Yeah. So the reason I talked about Lil Durk's criminal history, the problems he had with the law in the past, and now with the way the authorities are trying to connect OTF to the Black Disciples in these sorts, is like you just said, Ricky, because of the lyrics and because of the lifestyle they portray. What the federal government is doing is building this narrative around who these particular people are, what they've done, what they can do in the future, and it's going to make it very difficult now to be able to get in front of a fair jury.
Absolutely.
The narrative has been laid of allegedly who these people are. So his Lil Durk's attorneys, it's gonna be a difficult road to hoe, I guess.
I know you do federal cases. I don't
Yeah.
do federal cases. So generally, your experience, what has been the makeup of the jury? Does it appear to be jurors of peers of your clients?
No. The federal jury, because in the Northern District of Illinois, encompasses a much larger area than that of Chicago. And, a lot of people forget Chicago was in Illinois for some reason. It's always surprising. But Illinois, outside of Chicago, is not a very diverse state when it comes to the population. So when you have those federal juries, I've had several, and I don't see too many of my clients' peers. And more often than not, my clients are unfortunately minorities. And I don't see many minorities in that jury pool when it comes to when you're in federal court. So I think that, of course it's generalizing, but it tends to help lead to that high conviction rate in federal court, because you just see people that just don't have shared experiences with you.
Minorities work with them, but they don't necessarily work with minorities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could work at Walmart with someone who's different from you.
Yes.
But a lot of people who live in different communities don't come into your community to work.
Mm-hmm.
And, once you get south of Valma Road, it's corn. When you go down to Champaign, Illinois,
Yeah.
it's an hour and a half away, corn.
Mm-hmm.
You go to west, majority of the population of Illinois is rural areas and
Yeah.
small towns.
Yeah, it is. The rest of the state there. So that makeup of who you see in federal court is going to be completely different, which, of course, as we talked about in previous shows, jury selection, very, very important. So now you're dealing with this case. You're dealing with a view of many of the jurors who would have already seen, this narrative that the federal authorities have put together. And that's the only viewpoint they have of this particular person, their, alleged lifestyle, what they've done and what they're doing. And they have no concept of anything else.
And like you said before, that probably the most important part of the whole process is jury selection.
Right.
And we've done juries together, and one of the things is we ask questions. We look at the jury card to see if this is the type of. Let's use an example. We have a African American defendant, and say if the majority of the potential jurors are white, we look for Caucasians who may have some experience or who could identify or have some with a person like our client.
Right.
We don't want the person who has no experience.
Yes.
So they really can't understand that.
Yes.
So it's really an investigation to find people who could be fair.
Of course, that's a very difficult task to undertake, but over doing many, many trials and many, many years of legal work, you become better at trying to figure out who people are in a short interaction you have with them. But of course, it's a fickle science, and it's a very difficult task. We talked about the background of Little Durk, his history there, what he is all, kind of the allegations and his lifestyle, allegedly. So now let's get to these charges here. In essence, they're murder for hire charges. And so Durk was arrested in Florida in 2024 this year on federal charges related to an alleged murder for hire plot aimed at fellow rapper Quando Rondo. The charges are believed to be connected to the 2020 killing of Durk's close friend and collaborator, King Von.
Who was eventually murdered.
Yes, King Von was murdered in Atlanta. And for all intents and purposes, like I said before, King Von was what Lil Durk called his brother. They had grew up together. They've been through different instances of life together. And Lil Durk was really bringing King Von through and King Von was in his own right gaining popularity.
Well, the plot may thickens. My understanding is King Von was what they called a shooter. That he had some bodies on his.
So
So I don't know
so
if they assume because he has some relationship with him that he's probably doing the same thing that King Von was doing.
Right. So Ricky, explain what a shooter is.
Well, shooter is if you have a gang and you need someone to be murdered, let's call it what it is. There's a member of the gang who goes out, and that's what his job is.
Right.
It's no different from the mob. You know, you hire people to silence people,
Right.
revenge, doesn't pay debts. It's the person who does the killing for them.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know how true that is, but you know, people talk about it. A lot of rappers and members of the gang say label him as a shooter.
King Von and Durk were really close. They had a close relationship, which is well documented. But so that's how the federal authorities are really trying to connect Durk to this particular case. King Von, he was tragically killed during a confrontation with Quando Rondo's entourage outside of an Atlanta nightclub in 2020. And because of that, you know, say Durk harbored deep resentment towards Rondo, seeing him as kind of indirectly responsible for Von's death, even though, you know, there's no evidence that Quando Rondo did it directly, but it's Quando Rondo's entourage.
So Quando Rondo, whatever his name is, they're accusing King Von of ordering the hit of that person, correct?
No, they're accusing Durk of ordering the hit of Quando Rondo. Yes.
But they accidentally missed and killed Rondo's cousin.
Yes. Quando Rondo was able to survive this alleged hit that occurred in Los Angeles. So that's where we get the federal indictment from now. So, you know, we talk about this, but a lot of times. So, Ricky, why is this a federal case anyway?
Normally, federal cases, if it involves, say, if you commit a crime on federal property, or it's against a federal employee, say like a postal worker or a person in the military, if people do things across state lines, say if you sell drugs from one state to another state, so if it involves multiple states, it's the use of the federal, they used to call wire, television, telephone, that type of thing. They call it wire fraud. That's an old name for, we've updated. Nobody wires stuff anymore.
Right.
But so anytime you use the major systems, electronic systems, stuff like that, then the feds can get involved.
Yep. So that's what happened here. In August of 2022, 5 OTF members allegedly attempted to carry out murder plot in Beverly Hills. They ambushed Rondo and his cousin at a gas station. Rondo survived the attack, but his cousin, whose last name is Robinson, was killed. So there was surveillance footage, financial records, text messages reportedly showing Durk's involvement, including advice to his associates to avoid using their real names when booking flights. And these pieces are kind of what they put together to try to put together this complaint here. So let's talk about this complaint, Ricky. So, one of the things reason we do this show now is because we want to actually get into the actual legality of these things. We're not just talking out the side of our necks here. We want to pull up the actual documents and go over the actual documents here. So this is, right here, the criminal complaint that the United States for the Central District of California has filed against Durk Banks.
And most of the time, even some of these media outlets, they just say, "Oh, he was indicted," and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, the case is over," but
Right.
they never really get into the specifics of what the indictment is.
Right. Like we always say, everyone is cloaked with the presumption of innocence. So these are just allegations, but this is where they're getting the evidence from. So in a complaint, federal complaints are usually much more involved than complaints in state court. They really go through it here. So they start here with the summary of probable cause. And what is probable cause, Rick?
Probable cause is information. I'm going to use a technical term. Basically, information that would warrant a officer of reasonable belief that a crime was committed and the person in charge is the person who committed the crime. So they have enough evidence in the hands of a reasonable officer
Right.
that a crime was committed and the person they want to charge committed it.
Right. And probable cause it's a standard, and it's it's not really a legally defined standard.
No.
Exactly. We use the term, and we always we don't want to use the word to define a word, and we can't put it. It's hard to put it percentages, but of course, it's much lower than reasonable doubt.
Which is not divine.
Right.
Well, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
Which is not, you can't define it.
Can't define that. Can't define that either.
In a jury, you cannot define it.
No, we can't. Give a definition of what a beyond a reasonable doubt is. But probable cause is a much, much lower standard than that. So in this case, in the complaint here, they go over a summary of the probable cause. What do you see that they're talking about for the probable cause here, Rick?
I guess I might backtrack a little bit, but basically they're saying that he has some relationships. They're claiming that I believe approximately 5 people were involved in this hit.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is trying to link Lil Durk to these 5 people.
Yes.
These are the assassins. So what they do is they look at communications between the two, phone calls, iCloud. That's above my grade level. That's for people under 40 understand stuff like that. Booking flights before the assassination. Well, not assassination. Before the person is killed.
Yes.
Credit cards, purchasing of plane tickets, hotel rooms. For me, those could really be explained away.
Yes. Now, how was that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm gonna start off with they call it. He's the leader of a rap collective.
Whoa.
What does that mean?
Very, very ominous.
See, they can't say he's a member of the leader of a gang.
Right.
So they use a word to kind of hint, or imply that he's of this organized crime. They don't even say organized crime. They say collective. They even talk about he booked flights. There were bank records where he had booked flights. He calls them associates, but if he works with them, are they associates or are his
Employees.
Employees?
Right.
And if they're employees, wouldn't you book their flight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, that's just not uncommon. Don't book no flights under no names involved with me.
Yeah.
There's no messages about hit this dude, which means kill somebody, or
Right.
don't anything specifically dealing with the shooting. Then he talks about how after the death he raps a lyrics making a reference to the shooting.
Yeah.
To me, so what?
Right.
I mean, he could be just do it for commercial reasons. It's legitimacy, or like nah, see what happened to you.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you planned it.
No.
And my thing is, one of the attorneys said, well, that was done 6 months before. I think if it's done before, it hurts you more.
Right.
But if he does it afterwards, he's just responding to the killing.
Right.
So they was like, well, he was booking flights out, international flights. Well, you can't have it both ways. If you're labeling this guy as a influencer, he's influential, he's powerful, he has all this money, he could post $3 million in $1 million home. I mean, then he has the money for why wouldn't he fly international? If he's a famous rapper, they don't just fly to Iowa.
Yeah.
They fly to California, New York, Paris. You perform. So, I mean, it's them trying to take that round peg and push it into that square hole.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is that, so first of all, the probable cause is a low standard. And like you just explained, the evidence that they have in regards to this probable cause, in my opinion, at this point, is not strong. These so-called associates, right? If they're employees, so what? The company. Now they keep using and saying a credit card associated with Lil Durk, but is it really him in particular? Is it his personal credit card, or is it a credit card associated with the company of his record label? Is it was this a flight booked by a business manager or a flight booked by an assistant? I mean, I'm sure Little Durk's not going online and looking up flights and making these.
Since he's such a powerful man.
Yeah, making all these flights himself. What I don't see is any still direct evidence. And some people, they say, oh, well, we're not going to find that direct evidence. But with all of the...
but you know what who they're targeting with that type of biasness?
Yeah.
Certain jurors.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, if you hear that, rap collective.
Yes.
And and it's going to play into potential bias against them.
Right.
I'm going to be honest with it. There are prosecutors who are not looking for people to be fair. They're looking for people who will convict this guy.
Yes. Yeah. So with this probable cause, alleged probable cause, some credit cards, and I think what looms over all of this, of course, is going to be the vendetta, the publicly known vendetta he has against Quando Rondo. So that's going to be now, motive is not an element of any crime, but people want to hear it. Jurors want to hear, well, why would somebody do this? And so the prosecutors, in their mind, already have a baked-in motive. Lil Durk hates Quando Rondo.
Well, you know what kills me is they want to paint him as being this kingpin who's real smart and all this other stuff. Don't book no flights under no names involved with me. Maybe he doesn't want to be a part of that. Hey,
right.
Maybe they want to go kill this dude.
Right.
And maybe they talked about it. They said, don't put my name in this.
Right.
But so if he's that smart to not use his name during this, I'm assuming this recorded statement, then he's dumb enough to use a credit card? You can't have it both ways. He's smart enough not to mention the murder, but he's dumb enough to use a credit card to fly those guys. Come on.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways.
Exactly. So the complaint, really goes into detail about this event that occurred in Los Angeles. But the detail is it's repetitive. It starts kind of explaining. It says Banks is the leader of the Chicago-based rap collective known as Only the Family, or OTF. And in addition to OTF's status as a rap collective, I know based on investigation that OTF also acts in an association in fact of individuals who engage in violence, including murder and assault at the direction of Banks and to maintain their status in OTF. For example, based on evidence collected during investigations, including the interview of witnesses, I know that Banks put a monetary bounty out for an individual with whom Banks was feuding, who is Quando Rondo. And then there's a footnote at the bottom of that second page
drove
there.
Me crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Due to the serious safety concerns, this affidavit does not provide the identity of these witnesses. Based on the FBI's investigation, I know that the witnesses and or their family members have already received threats and or have been contacted in what appears to be attempts to influence their participation in this event. So what's going on there, Rick?
I think they're just trying to dirty him up. I mean, don't you have the right to face your accusers?
You do.
So you're saying I have evidence, but I'm not going to tell you. Mm-hmm. Then it's not evidence if you're not going to tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's presumed innocent. He may, in fact, be innocent. Mm-hmm. But you're going to stand before a judge and say, oh, I have this evidence, but I'm not going to tell you. I mean, look at it. They said he has attempted to publicly distance himself from a suspected gang or criminal activity. Well, isn't that what you want him to do?
Yes.
You want, if he's around these dangerous gang members and you just want to focus on your career, you're supposed to distance yourself from those type of people. So he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Before he's a gang member. Now, then they say it's associated. Make up your mind.
Yeah.
I don't see how you're going to be a gang member if you are making all this money legally. I mean, what time do you have to be a gang member if you're a leader of a gang?
Seems like it would take your time away from your responsibilities.
And you might want to not associate with them anymore so you can focus on your career.
So they go into detail and say on August 19, 2022, multiple OTF members and associates used 2 vehicles and worked in tandem to track, stalk, and attempt to murder the Quando Rondo at a gas station located in Los Angeles, California. The co-conspirators fired at least 18 shots or rounds at the vehicle, striking and killing Quando Rondo's cousin. His family member was traveling with him. And a grand jury, we talked about a grand jury, but what is a grand jury again?
A grand jury is normally they're picked from the voter rolls, and they're brought in federal court or state court. They come, they gather in the room, and what happens is that the prosecution will they will tell them they're seeking to indict or charge someone, and basically they'll give them a summary of what the evidence they have against this person, and then the grand jury decides whether there's enough evidence to indict, which really is not the case.
Right.
I mean, they never tell them, well, you don't have to indict.
No.
So, I mean, they sit there, they listen to what they're going to say. 99% of the time, they're going to say, okay, indict.
Indict, yeah.
They rarely ask questions.
No.
That's why you never see lawyers in a grand jury.
People.
They would kick me out if I was in a grand jury.
They don't know the difference. People don't know the difference.
Exactly.
They say, well, if the police are saying something happened, they're making it sound pretty bad. I guess
why
this
would
is
they
a
lie?
crime, right? So the grand jury in Central District, California, returned an indictment against Kevon London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Bryan Lindsay, all arising from murder for hire, and conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death. And that's in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 1958. So all these, the co-conspirators were caught somehow. And now these co-conspirators are charged, and now they bring in allegedly the mastermind behind all this. So how does that happen, Ricky?
It's clear to me somebody's snitching.
There you go.
Somebody's got caught. Maybe it's one of these so-called cold conspirators. They call them the hitmen, and they're looking for substantial jail time. So nobody wants to die in prison. So you snitch up.
Yeah.
We have someone more tantalizing. We have this famous rapper who has a lot of money, a lot of influence. Like to say, he's powerful,
Right.
and that's meat hanging off the limb. I mean, so when prosecutors hear, okay, so you associate the mob, but you can help me take down John Gotti. Of course, they're gonna jump at it.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult decision. A lot of times we have to talk with a lot of clients about if the situation comes up, because it's a decision you're going to have to make. Do you want to try to help yourself, or do you want to try to continue to be associated with an organization in the future, believe they're going to take care of you, believe that you're not, you're going to be in the danger is going to outweigh the possibility of you testifying, against someone else. The problem with committing a crime is if there are people involved, other people involved. Someone's always going to talk. That's just the nature of committing crime.
It could be pillow talk.
Yeah, exactly. So they said, based on the investigation, evidence shows that Banks ordered Quando Rondo's murder and that the hitman used Banks and OTF-related finance to carry out the murder. For example, bank and flight records show that an OTF member and close associate of Banks coordinated and paid for Jones, Lindsay, Wilson, Houston, and another OTF member to travel from Chicago to California on the day before the murder, and a co-conspirator 3 paid for flights using a credit card linked to Banks and OTF. And around the time of that, co-conspirator 3 purchased the co-conspirator's flights to California. iCloud records show that a phone number associated with Banks, and that's when they texted. That's what Banks allegedly texted to co-conspirator 3, don't book no flights under no names involved with me.
No, there's a scene from Goodfellas where the mafia guy, I think it's Cicero, he's talking to one of the other mob guys, and he says, don't use my name. He said one of the other mafia guys went to prison by just shaking another guy's hand.
Right.
So they're like, oh, you're associated with this guy just by shaking the hand. It's the same thing. Either they work, if they are employees, of course he's going to interact with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean it's criminal activity. And if he says, don't put my name in there because I know what you guys been talking about, harmless.
Yeah.
But you can switch it around and turn it to something negative.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening here. Electronics nowadays, they can provide convenience, but they are keeping us under constant surveillance.
Big Brother, 1984.
Yeah, your phone can be tracked, your text messages can be obtained, your emails can be obtained, anything in the iCloud can be obtained.
And they say once you put something in the clouds, out in the clouds, you can't take it back. It's there forever.
Yeah, it and it's, many of my cases, you're fighting what people put on social media, what people text, what people put out electronically, where their phones are pinged, all that type of information, where it all occurs. It's all brought together and put into a case where the prosecutors are painting a picture. They're putting together almost like a Picasso. They're putting together these different pieces of the social media stratosphere and your electronics and building a story. So that's what's happening in this case. So the indictment really goes into, the travel funds used and linked to Banks. And also they mentioned that Banks later.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Can you pay for a plane ticket with cash?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So it's not abnormal for him to charge with a credit card.
Yeah.
Who's going to walk in if your flight is $1,000? You got 5 people. Who's going to walk in with 5? Are they going to take 5,000? You can't even rent a car with cash.
That's true.
You have to have a credit card.
That's true.
So now they're painting it. Oh, he used a credit card. You have to use a credit card. Absolutely.
Absolutely. These are things that have to be done in order to buy a ticket.
Or, if you're saying he's so smart, he could pay someone else to use that credit card. Hey, use your credit card. I'll pay the bill. I mean, either he's smart or he's stupid. Which one is it?
Right. Exactly. So, what question it brings up is that, so we're looking at this. Oh, and we'll finish this, then I'll get to that question. But the complaint says that, or the affidavit says that Lil Durk also travels to California, Miami, travels back to California, insinuating that he was, there at that time for some reason. Okay, so he was there in California.
Aren't the major record labels in New York and California?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
They're not in Iowa.
No, they're not there. They're not there. And so they try to connect that. So to filter this down, what we have are mentioned here, at least one text message, some flights, credit card, and that's really it.
And 5 dudes who have a motive to lie.
Absolutely.
For self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're gang members. They're actual gang members. That's what I'm assuming. So they have more motive. they don't like this guy, or they may want to impress him.
Absolutely. So that's gonna be the major challenge, and that's where it comes when you come to trial and these, so-called snitches come and testify. Why should you believe them?
And I'm quite sure they all have criminal backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So that calls, and I bet you a lot of them have gun charges. Mm-hmm. So their credibility is going to be at issue.
Yeah.
Gang membership, convicted felons, gun charges. They're just trying to not die in prison. So they'll snitch on their mother if they could.
Yeah. Because when you're dealing with something like this and you're dealing with trial, it's always beyond that reasonable doubt. In my opinion, if someone's coming up there and they're testifying for their own self-preservation, to me that's automatic doubt.
Absolutely.
I can't believe. I'm not going to believe that person. Maybe I'm a cynical because I've been an attorney for so long, but
well, then it's our life experiences.
Yeah.
People who would lie for their own benefit.
Mm-hmm. A lot of
we see that in politics every day.
Yeah. And a lot of times, too, from being an attorney for so long, we really look for body language cues for people on the stand, for instance, right? And this is how a lot of times how we know people are lying, too. One body language, one clue is a lot of times people lie, their eyes go from down to up. Some people, they may look up, but their eyes go in a particular direction. They come from here and they go down to the right. Well, it indicates someone's lying. People, when they are talking and they may be open, all of a sudden they close their arms, they fold their arms, they become defensive. Mm-hmm. They fold their arms, they become defensive. Some people, they move around, they start to readjust in their chair. When they're getting ready to lie, they're becoming uncomfortable. So there are a lot of things.
And a lot of times they won't answer the question directly.
Yes.
They try to avoid the answer.
Yep. They won't answer the question. You ask them a question. I've had a time where I had to literally get into a witness' face and the witness wouldn't talk about a particular body part that was on.
What type of charge was it?
This was a civil case.
Oh, civil case. Okay.
But the witness wouldn't talk about what kind of body part I was pointing to. I just want to talk about particular. I had to point to the body part and get them to say that was the body part.
Was it medical malpractice? What was the significance of the body part?
This was a wrongful death case, and it was an expert who was just being very difficult, and it just did not play well in front of the jury. But he finally admitted, what I wanted him to do, but it took.
And the experts are supposed to be neutral.
Yeah.
If you're presenting yourself as neutral but won't answer the question, people are not going to think you're neutral.
Right, exactly.
You're just a hired gun.
Exactly, 100%. So saying all that to say that I think now the second and last thing we're going to talk about here, but he hasn't been let out on bond, and his attorneys have offered up a lot in regards to get him out. Millions of dollars, putting homes up. They've even offered to hire around-the-clock security to make sure that nothing happens at the home. But yet, he's still in custody.
You know what infuriates me? And we're going to talk about fairness. Now, one of the bases for the prosecution arguing why he should remain in custody was that he may have been associated with a murder in Chicago.
Right.
The judge should even consider that.
Right.
He's not been charged. He's not been charged.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you use that as a basis? One, why would you offer it?
Right.
Again, it's to put some judges. Prosecutors know if I dirty him up, judges he's not going to roll the dice on this guy. If I just mention a murder where we're not offering any evidence, he hasn't been charged, to this, some judges I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think a fair judge would be like, well, why are you telling me this?
Exactly. Exactly.
If has he been charged?
Right.
Then don't bring it up.
Yep. Yeah, I believe that the federal authorities, that's one of their, well, state attorneys too, but I don't think they do it as much because they may not have as much information as the federal authorities have at their disposal. But federal authorities, they'll mention, well, and looking at, their their taxes 20 years ago, we found something that was false there, and it shows that they lied or something to that effect, and they just throw it out there, with the person not being charged or not a real connection in regards to what happened, and now a judge has to make a decision. But that's the judge's job. They have to be able to filter out what they want to listen to and what they don't want to listen to. And if they cannot figure that out, man, why are you there? In my thinking, I don't think it's for judges really taking a chance. It's listening to what the accusations are and really trying to figure out, who this person is that's in front of me. If I put this person, if this person puts up a significant amount of money, are they going to mess that up?
Well, if again, they have so many other options. Mm-hmm. If he's so famous, where's he going to go?
Yeah.
If people know, I mean, I've seen a picture of him. He has a unique look to him. It's not like me. I look like an average Joe.
Right.
Where he wears his hair. He's popular. His friends and his enemies know what he looks like.
Right.
Take his passport. Where is he going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Put him on GPS and house arrest.
Right.
Just especially if you're going to offer up this other nonsense about, well, we think he's charged with a murder, but we don't have any proof.
Right.
So there are other alternatives to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, if they're saying, well, we feel that these witnesses who we're not going to tell you who they are,
right,
that their life may be threatened.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, if he's the head of this organization, this collective, if you really want to say gang, collective, then he already knows who they are.
Right. Exactly.
So their life is at risk anyway. Because people get killed even though the so-called kingpin is inside prison. It happens every day, all the day.
Absolutely.
But my point is, they could have put him on GPS because the issue is he's not going to be able to kill anyone.
Right. Yep. Him in particular.
He can't control what other people do, whether he's in prison or not.
Right.
They can ban him from the internet. They can ban him from phones, only talking to his attorney. There's a whole bunch of things they could have done.
I mean, there's evidence that Lil Durk bought 2 separate international flights the day before he was arrested, but he didn't get on either flight, which in my mind leaves the fact that he understood that he was going to get arrested, but he didn't leave. He stayed put.
Well, it's an indication he was not trying to flee.
Exactly. He wasn't trying to
because
flee.
if he got on the plane, that's an indication of flight.
Exactly.
Of guilt also by fleeing.
Right. And that's not what he did at all. So, and one final thing about the bond that I thought was interesting. The judge made a comment along the lines, because Lil Durk had a lot of family members, associates, and sorts in court, and the judge basically stated something along the lines, well, it's clear that Lil Durk is an influential and powerful person, and so that makes him dangerous in essence.
The head of the clan is a influential person.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control what other people do.
Yeah. But what it also displays is so many of the same set of facts can be skewed in so many different ways. A lot of times we tell family members that their support looks great. It looks great for a client to have family support, family and friends support, a support system. But again, you also have to know your venue. Some judges view it as, well, if you had all the support and family and friends, then why didn't they help you, before this happened? Or in this case, like this judge who put it in a way, well, it's clearly these people are here because he's powerful, and
Well, I mean, my thing is, just because you don't have any friends doesn't mean you should punish me for having friends.
Right.
You shouldn't punish family members. And first of all, these courts are public.
They are.
Anybody can come in. So family members who want to support that person, they may not even agree with their lifestyle.
Right.
But that's a family member.
Yeah.
Of course, you have business people. They are invested in. They had record executives there.
Yeah.
You know, so they're interested in this is their product, their money. So, I mean, you're damned if you do for some people, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. Do you think, we're talking about this final thing here, do you think that cases like this are really going to shape the future kind of hip-hop and where it goes moving forward?
Absolutely. Murder's a bad thing. But I think the focus should be more on those real organized crime organizations that devastates. I mean, if it's an international or interstate drug, I mean, communities are destroyed from drugs being placed in the communities. More people die from overdose or die between wars between drug dealers or the mafia and all these other. I think that's where, I think this should have been in state court, really.
Yes.
Not federal court.
Absolutely.
All these resources should be targeted towards people who have kill more people, have greater effects on communities where they don't live.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of rappers need to reevaluate themselves and what they do and how they move. And stay off the darn phone. Stay off the internet.
No, I know. I think, this is really I think it will shape the future of hip hop. Hip hop is rap.
Rap and hip hop are two different things.
They are. Rap and hip hop, I think they're, beginnings. In many instances, so initially it was sort of an East Coast kind of thing, made its way west, and then the South showed up, and of course,
but
Midwest
East
was
Coast,
involved.
they didn't start off with the profanity. It was the West Coast.
Yeah, you can. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Ice-T and sorts along those lines. So the
and then it became a battle who's tougher.
Yeah,
I think that's what rose it to this level. It's like, I'm more gangster, I'm more tough than you. I have more bodies, but you went to Catholic school.
What's gonna always be, rap or hip hop is the expression of people's different lived experiences. And what's gonna have to happen is there's gonna have to be more space and opportunity for different lived experiences in the minority community to come to the forefront and be able to be popular and sell.
You know what's funny? We both came from the kind of same communities, then went to college and law school, but nobody talks about that.
No.
If it's negative, if look at Mae Jemison.
Right.
I think she went to college at the age of 16, got a PhD in chemistry from Stanford. Who does that?
It's amazing.
You got to be a real genius to do that, and became an astronaut.
She went to Morgan Park.
Yeah, Morgan Park, exactly. Where you went. And the thing is, but you'll have Meg the Stallion be picked to throw the first ball out at baseball game. You don't pick that positive person. Or you have Snoop Dogg run with the Olympic torch, but you walk past all these other brilliant people.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're in an era where the more negative the music is, the more money they're gonna make.
Yeah.
If you're saying something positive, that's why most R&B songs, they have to have a rap in it.
Yeah.
Before, you didn't have rap in the R&B music, but they feel they have to have rap in it to stay relevant.
Yeah.
They have to have some rapper rapping in the background.
Yeah. But it's also gonna, I think it's a representative of societal woes in that people gravitate towards negativity, and that most of the, I won't even, because I was about to say most of the shared life experiences of the minorities, people can relate to that, but I won't even say that because rap is popular in all spheres, and so that's where I think it's gonna affect it, because I believe rappers are gonna start thinking more about what I'm saying on these songs if this continues to happen.
Well, that's going to mess with their money, isn't it?
Yes, it absolutely is.
You can't rap Beethoven and make a whole bunch of money.
Well, maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll change. We get some more positive, party rap like we used to have in the '90s and sort of thing.
And plus with the, I knew some like really bad dudes living in, particularly in West Inglewood. You see that guy, you always walked away from him.
Right.
You knew that's not the guy you would hang around with.
Right.
And it's like dudes like that, they're not going on bragging about.
No.
They just do it.
Yeah.
So I would say 85% of these guys, you can express your life experiences without doing some of the stuff. You got guys who talk about war, but they don't glorify it.
No.
They don't brag about who they kill.
Yeah.
It's always the guy who works in supply, got the good war stories, but the guys who actually seen people get killed or have to kill to defend themselves, they don't brag about that. They don't,
No, it's not something you want to bring to the forefront.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a great discussion. It has a Chicago connection, of course, and I wish Little Durk well in his defense, and hopefully this is the case. We'll continue to follow it. We'll see the outcome. But
I hope the defense attorneys will consider some of our responses to some of the stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right. So thank you so much. This wraps up another episode of the Trial Attorneys. Be sure to remember to subscribe
Down below.
on YouTube. Yeah, down below, subscribe. Follow us on, we're on the Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on Spotify and Amazon, I believe. We're on all those platforms, the podcast, or, watch us on YouTube. Continue to get content like this. If you like it, you'll get some more. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.